This is Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Netflix CCA panel for I'm Thinking of Ending Things. We will be talking to writer and director Charlie Kaufman and actress Jessie Buckley about the film. I do want to remind everyone to please mute your audio, and also to please make sure your cameras are turned off. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I first want to introduce actress Jessie Buckley.
Hello.
Hi. I'm glad you stuck to this. I was like, the red noses are going to make sense, I promise. How are you doing today, Jessie?
I'm so much better for a red nose. It just makes everything better.
It really does, though. I can't breathe, but it still makes things a lot better.
Good.
I also wanted to tell you congratulations for your Gotham Award nomination. Congrats.
Thank you.
I also want to introduce writer-director Charlie Kaufman. Hi, Charlie.
Howdy, how are you?
Doing good, and yourself?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking with the costume of the red nose. I appreciate it. Feel free to keep it on if you like. I will do whatever you want to do. This is your world today. So I'll go ahead and jump into the questions. This first question is for you, Charlie. This film is considered a psychological thriller. And I found it interesting when I first heard that that's how it's classified. But I wanted to specifically ask you, do you agree with that assessment, or do you even believe in genres as a whole?
I believe the genres exist. So I believe in them in that sense. The book it's based on is, I guess, characterized that way. So I think the expectation is that it was going to be that, and I don't know if it is or it isn't. It sort of didn't. It wasn't part of the process of making the movie for me to try to keep it within a genre. So so I'm fine with people calling it that, and I'm fine with people calling it something else.
In the film, the ending to Jake's narrative, it feels very ambiguous. And it leaves the audience with their own opportunity to create their own interpretation as to what is happening. And so I wanted to ask you, how important is it to you to ensure that the audience, that they're not given simple answers while watching the film? I
like films that let you sort of bring your own interpretation to the piece. So I try to do that in the work that I do. I try to sort of make it not necessarily ambiguous, but multi-layered, so that different things are going to resonate with different audience members, and I encourage that. I mean, it's something it pleases me.
And yeah, because while reading the book, it's very clear to me what has happened to Jake. And so I really do appreciate you leaving it open for everyone to really form their own assessment of the film. So I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Now also too, Jessie, because Charlie's screenplays, they're very cerebral. And so many people have a very wide array of reactions to it. And I wanted to know, what was your first reaction when you read the screenplay?
I just was completely, well, I got it in an evening where it was kind of like one of those situations where it was going to explode after kind of 12 hours or something like that. So I sat into a coffee shop in Dublin and read it, and it was just so it just felt like a trip from the minute I read it. And I felt, I was so excited, and I felt really challenged, and I didn't know anything. I felt like I didn't know anything, and by the end I didn't know anything either, but I just had a kind of visceral feeling of, it was just a feeling. I just felt like I'd been kind of awoken or shocked or electrocuted or something, but in the best kind of way.
Now, did you have a different reaction? Because while watching the film for a second time, it was like, I was just like, all these clues were right there before me. I didn't know. What was your reaction after actually seeing the film? Did your views change on it?
Yeah, I think they've changed every time I've like reread it, or I've seen it twice, and it definitely, I feel like I realize or understand something different every time I watch it, because I guess I'm different every time I watch it. And yeah, and it's great when something like that happens, because you feel like, yeah, you're in a kind of relationship with something in a different way. And that's really exciting.
Now, you have a very hard task of portraying Lucy in this film, because not only is Lucy her own person, but she's also a part of Jake at the same time. And so I wanted to ask you, did you feel as though that you needed to learn both of the characters of Lucy and Jake to better prepare for this role?
No. No, there was no ground. There was no anyone for her or it or whatever she is. She was a collection of somebody's imagination, but she also was somebody who had her own imagination and her own worlds within a world. So it wasn't a process where I was like, oh, I'll take, it was much more abstract. And I just kind of I think between me and Charlie, we both kind of let ourselves be open to the things that we were being inspired by just from the text or whatever, but also that we're just around in our worlds. And then we kind of put them all into a pot and something came out.
Charlie, this next question to you. This is a very contained story. Most of it takes place in a car. And so I wanted to know, what was your process of bringing Anne's novel to life while keeping the dreamy atmosphere in such a contained space throughout the course of the film?
My DP, Wukash Zal, and I worked on trying to figure out what this thing should look like and how to present this sort of altered reality, and we spent as much time as we could in that, and as well with the production design and the costumes, of course. So there's this constantly shifting thing that's going on in terms of the practical elements of the movie changing. But I really do think that the tone of it came from the actors and their ability to embody those characters and the moments that those characters are having. And so I feel like anything that I could add extraneously to that would not be enough if I didn't have that base of those performances. And they were just, it was a wonderful cast to work with.
Now, Jessie, I read that during the takes of, the scenes that you filmed with Jesse Plemons in the car, that you stayed in the car in between the takes. So I wanted to know, how was it filming those scenes, especially with the amount of dialogue that you have in those as well?
It was great. I mean, you kind of got in the morning and you buckled up and you kind of just saw where the car was going to take you. We didn't go very far because we were in a studio and we were all, it wasn't going anywhere. Yeah, it felt like, I don't know, after a while, me and Jessie, you kind of forget that there's a world outside of the car after 25 minutes or 25-minute takes that you're doing over a few hours. But then we did get out and we kind of had a coffee or had scooter races and yeah, it was great. And Jesse's just such a beautiful soul and man and friend, and I mean, I feel really lucky that I think we both were like up for going, on this trip together, and felt like emboldened by each other. And I just think he's the most incredible actor and incredible person that I really actually love spending time with. So kind of spending hours and hours in a car together was complete joy.
Look, you just set the bar high for your next road trip companion. I'm just saying.
I know.
Now, Charlie, throughout this film, you really explore time and aging. But one of the things that I find very fascinating is how you actually use food to do that. And we see that in the dinner scenes as we see the family is changing from the different courses to the temperature of the food to the Yule logs, and also too with the scene of the ice cream stand. And so I wanted to ask you, what was the importance of conveying that through the food in this film?
I don't really know. The dinner, the ice cream, and I think some form of the cake was in the novel that Ian Reid wrote. So maybe we should get him on the phone, get him a clown nose, and get him here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a kind of a metaphorical reason that I included it. It was the way the story went. I did like that nobody ate anything at the dinner. I enjoyed that, but I think that was just something that I think it just kind of happened. I don't think it was never a conscious decision. I just kind of think that there was sort of no time because there was so much going on in the conversation, and it was very active, and so the food never got eaten, which
Jesse
I guess
ate the Yule log.
Yeah, he ate the Yule log,
Yeah.
and you guys ate the burrs. But I mean, at the dinner, nothing was touched at the dinner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which people seem to notice when they talk about the movie, which I like, but it just kind of happened that way.
I mean, I hope you at least ate the food after the take was over. At least all the food didn't go to waste. No, it was just too long.
No, I'm trying to think if the food was eaten. I imagine it was. I didn't eat it.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, they wouldn't let it go to waste. I'm certain of that. We had a very, very conscientious group of prop people. I mean, extraordinary. So
They were actually incredible. The prop people were amazing.
Now, Jessie, how was it filming those scenes? Because you have to keep filming different takes. Everyone's constantly changing through the makeup, the hair. How was that experience? And how do you keep it all together with the different dialogue that you had to have?
I think you probably try and not keep it all together. That's like you try and fall off the edge of the cliff because that's where the fun happens. Yeah, so it wasn't. I guess with something like that, you just kind of want to like realize something or have a new experience of it. So each time, and it's so rich, like there's so much that can happen, and you're working with such amazing people like David and Tony and Jessie, and each time they're different. So it's never the same, and it's always exciting and really scary, but in the best way. Like, you just feel, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm excited and terrified to do it again.
Now, in this film, you give a monologue, one of many monologues, but I really wanted to talk about the Pauline Kael reference in the film and surrounding a woman under the influence. And I wanted to first ask you, how was it, portraying, doing this monologue, but also too, did you have a chance to read Pauline's review surrounding the film and whether or not you agreed with it?
Who?
For you, Jessie.
Oh, I did. I think I just read it on set. I remember, like, you had the book of Pauline Kael's interviews on set, and I read it there. But yeah, I like watched some interviews with her before it came to America to shoot it and stuff. And I mean, I love Jenna Rowlands, and I think Cassavetes' films are incredible. And there's, yeah, I personally think they're great and would kill to do anything as brilliant as what she has done throughout her career. I don't think there's anybody quite like her. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, everybody's perspective's kind of interesting. And woman under the influence, it's I know I'm not going to even go into that because that's a whole other different thing and I'll get lost.
Charlie, I wanted to know the importance of actually including that into the screenplay, and the same question as Jessie, whether or not you agreed with the review.
I mean, a lot of the movie is this character, kind of the character of Jake, incorporating the things that have influenced him into the story that he's telling himself. So, there's paintings, there's books, there's movies, there's all this stuff that becomes his sort of, that infuses his psyche. And I was interested in the idea of someone having an opinion that they're passionate about or vehement about, and then reading the opinion of somebody else, or hearing the opinion of somebody else that they are intimidated by or in awe of, and how you as a person would as this person would reckon with that thing. And so that was the thing that I was interested in there, that he thought something and then he had read something that pretty much went counter to everything that he thought and made him feel stupid for his opinion, rather than owning his opinion and not that somebody's critique couldn't change your opinion, but I didn't think that was what was happening here. I felt it was kind of like an intimidation and a feeling less than. And I like the movie very much that she's critiquing, and I like Pauline Kael very much. So both of those things are true.
Hey, that was a great answer. I wanted to ask you, speaking of all of these references that are in the film, so there's a lot of references in relation to society or like the industry that produces art and media. And so I wanted you to speak a little bit more towards that, because we have the references, A Beautiful Mind, the film within the film. I guess first, can you speak to me as to why you included the film inside the film with Robert Zemeckis, how that came to be?
Specifically the Zemeckis reference or the film itself? Because
the film and then the call out.
Again, the character of Jake is wrestling with a lot of sort of input in his life, and he's got a very lonely, isolated life, and so it takes center stage. The things that he wants, the things that the fantasies that he has a lot of them are influenced by the culture that surrounds him. So in the case of the Beautiful Mind reference, this is, in this man's dying moment, this is his fantasy, which is someone else's fantasy, which is actually something that's referenced in the movie in an Oscar Wilde quote. And so that was the idea of the romantic comedy that was in there, that the janitor was watching, that he watches these movies, that he sees these people in love, that this thing which isn't real is something that he still desires for himself and realizes that he won't have it. And the Robert Zemeckis reference was just something that we added because we wanted to put an end credit on it. And my assistant editor pulled this offline out of the movie Contact, I think, and stuck it on there. And it was a surprise to the editor and to me when we saw it, and it was just really funny. So we tried to get Robert Zemeckis to agree to let us use his name, and he did, and that's why it's there.
Now, I do want to ask about also, too, the reference to the song The Lonely Room being used from Oklahoma. Why that song choice? Was it something that you wanted to convey through the character Jake?
Sorry, could you say again, which song?
The Lonely Room from Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I felt like when I decided I would put a school musical rehearsal into this movie that the janitor would be witnessing, it kind of, I settled on Oklahoma because I felt like there were a lot of sort of parallel themes and ideas in Oklahoma that I could use, that would influence him. You know, it's a play that he's seen many times. Presumably this story takes place in Oklahoma, which means that they just do the play a lot at this high school. And my composer, Jay Wadley, who's from Oklahoma, said that it's actually true, that every 3 years at his high school, it was done. So yeah, Judd in Oklahoma is a character who's isolated and lonely and frustrated with his life and the fact that he feels unaccepted, unappealing, and he's jealous and he's sort of a bit vengeful. And so it seemed sort of kind of perfect that would be the song that Jake would sing at the end.
Now, Jessie, I wanted to know, what was your experience like working with Charlie as a director?
Oh.
No pressure.
I'll step away for a
No, don't. You need to know. Oh, yeah, he knows. I love him with all my heart, and he has a lot of trust as a director, you know, and he's as willing to be unsure as all of us, which is great. You know, we all are trying to, I guess, when you're all in a place together where there's no ego, but there's actually genuinely trying to kind of create something in a moment or find something in a moment, and that requires everybody on set to have that feeling. And when somebody like Charlie is leading that, it trickles down, and so it genuinely feels. And what's so gorgeous, I mean, it was a tough shoot. Like, we had hardly, we had very short time to shoot it. There's lots of things that at times were against us or whatever, but what was so clear was every single person on set, from the crew to the actors to the creatives that were behind it, genuinely wanted to do it to the best because they were so inspired by what Charlie had given them in a story and what Ian had given them in a story. And there was a lot of feeling behind that. Sometimes it was too hard for people, or sometimes it was too much love. But it was really, he's amazing. There's no one like him, and that's an incredibly, that's why he is so beautiful, is that he's totally himself. and he's speaking as honestly and bravely and humanely and provocatively as possible, but he's asking us as actors and all of us that are involved in it, from the creatives to the people who are going to watch it, to step up and ask themselves some questions too. And that's a really exciting and trusting place to exist with somebody, and I love you.
Charlie, I wanted to ask you the same question, but how did you know? What was it about Jessie that let you know, like, this is your Lucy for this film?
She was recommended to me by a friend of a friend. I didn't know who she was, and which excited me. I like, you know, learning about people I don't know about. And so I watched this movie Beast, which she had been in, and just an extraordinary movie, and she's extraordinary in it, and very like in the moment, and mercurial, which are things that I really needed for this character, because she needs to change in a moment, you know, over and over and over again, but do it in a way that isn't sort of obvious. And so I was really excited, and I sent her the poem that appears in the movie to ask if she would do a reading of it and tape herself and send it to me. And I at that point, I sent it to a few other actresses as well. And I got Jessie's tape back, I think like the next day. And it's a very long poem, and it was completely, apparently, memorized by her. And the reading was just so beautiful and raw and honest and felt. And that was it. She was my choice. And I was really worried, and I think I told her this recently, and I think she was surprised. I was really worried she was not going to do the movie, you know, because I was counting on it at that point. So yeah, I was really excited that she agreed to be in it, and she is and she is that way throughout production, on the set. She's always there. She's always reacting to everything that is happening with the other actors. Any changes, any changes of temperature in the room changes Jessie's performance in really exciting and beautiful ways. And there isn't anything that she did that didn't feel that way. You know, you eventually have to kind of pick things that, because you've got to settle on something when you're editing. But all of her performance was just, you know, really wonderful. And I loved you too.
I'm loving this love fest. I need more of it. Thanks both of you. And Jessie, we can start with you. Without giving away your thoughts on the true meaning of the film, what do you hope that viewers take away from the film after watching, and hopefully them watching multiple times?
I am the worst person to ask this question to. I think they take whatever they want to take away from it. It's theirs. It's I took my thing away from it, and it changed. And yeah, it's their story to have. So that's my answer.
And Charlie?
I think it's interesting to think about the stuff we were talking about earlier, and how then you, as the audience watching this movie, are doing the same thing. You're incorporating this thing, not just this movie, but any movie. But in this movie, we're actually talking about that as an issue. You're incorporating this, these ideas and these feelings into your psyche, and it is yours, as Jessie said, to do with what you will, whatever resonates with you, whatever you reject, whatever you embrace about it, and it can change at different times, in different viewings, even throughout the movie, in one viewing. But yeah, it's, you know, I feel it's a sort of the responsibility of people who do the things that we do to give people the freedom to do what they want with the things we give them, because we're putting things in their brains. And I don't want to dictate to people what they should think or what they should do with something that I'm presenting. It's theirs, and they can do with it as they please. And I hope that they do with it as they please.
Well, I have to admit, I fell down the rabbit hole of watching Indian Explain or theories surrounding the film. And I wanted to ask both of you, and Charlie, we could start with you. Have you heard of any interesting theories that you might not have thought of, but you found it just very fascinating from anyone?
Starting with me?
Yes.
I don't think I have. I'm trying to think now. I feel like there's been moments. My memory is like a sieve these days. I feel like there were things that I've read on occasion that were like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of rejection of the film by people that is interesting. But in terms of people who like the film, and I'm not really all that interested in plot theories. I'm more interested in like the emotional takeaway, because I think there are definitely various theories about plot, and I feel like those, to a large extent, would become somewhat sort of unified if you watch the movie more than once, because things, as you said, things start to sort of like, you start to recognize things that you might have missed the first time. But in terms of like emotional reaction from people who like the movie, I feel like it seems fairly consistent to me. So I'm not sure I have an answer for you.
Hey, that was a good enough answer for me.
Okay, good.
Jessie?
I don't know. I haven't really done. I kind of like do it and then get on with my life.
You're lucky.
Look, no, I had the whole, midlife crisis after watching it. I had to like, let me.
Oh, actually, wait though. My boyfriend did, after he watched it the first time, after he did look at me and he he was like, "Are you real?" Because I think he was so, he wasn't sure what the hell was going on anymore. I am.
What was your answer? You said you are real?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's still guessing.
Well, we do have some questions from the CCA members, and the first question is going to be from Sammy Tirano from TV Grapevine. Charlie, this question's for you. Sammy wants to know, how closely does this follow the book, and were there any changes made in the movie that were not shown in the book?
Yeah, there are a lot of, I mean, the book, the basic story is fairly similar. They go to the house, they have the dinner, they leave, they go to the ice cream place, they go to the high school. What happens in between all of that, a lot of that is new. Most of the conversations in the car are new. The ending is different. It's very different. I don't know if people want me to spoil the ending of the book, so I won't unless someone specifically asks me to. But although in sort of spirit, there's a similarity to the end of the book, the way it plays out is very different in the movie.
And also, too, you stay in the school a little bit longer than the book actually does.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, like, one of the things is that there are no interstitial sequences of the janitor in the school throughout the book. I added that parallel story, so that puts us in the school more, and then all of that stuff, with the dance and the theater thing at the end with Jesse Plemons. None of that is in the pig. None of that is in the book.
And this next question comes from Ray Pride, Movie City News and New City, Chicago. This question is for the both of you, and Jesse, we can start with you. What is the key element in deciphering how to direct and how to play the levels of the young woman's existence? And Ray says that the performance that you gave was both naturalistic and otherworldly.
What are the elements?
What is the key element in deciphering how to direct, and also, and that will be for Charlie, but also to how to play the young woman Lucy's existence?
I mean, I think I just played each moment as a reality of that moment. There was, you know, whatever place I was in or whatever take I was in was as real as it was. And then you've, you know, got your pot of stuff that have changed how you might look at the world or this world because of what's inspired you. But yeah, I just kind of got on with it in each scene and saw what came up, kind of.
And Charlie, how is it? What's the key element in deciphering how to direct the young woman Lucy's existence in the film?
I think what Jessie said is something that I agree with, and I mean, I don't think that I don't think it's possible to play, you know, an idea or someone's fantasy, and so we weren't interested in that. I think everything that's interesting that happens between actors is actors interacting with each other as people. If there's anything sort of otherworldly about the piece or about Jessie's character, it's the shifts. But that doesn't change anything that she's doing in acting as a human being. It just means that it's not something you'll see in normal life, that somebody suddenly takes this attitude and then takes this attitude so quickly, or suddenly someone becomes a film critic. But within those moments, she's just being a person, or being that person, whatever that person is in that moment, whatever that person's reaction is, whatever that version of the young woman is at that moment is what Jessie's doing. And I think that was the correct way to pursue it.
And I think we don't have time for any more questions. So I want to thank both of you for taking the time to speak with us today about the film. And I also want to thank all of the CCA members, the Critics' Choice Association members, for taking the time to join us for this panel today with our red noses. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us have a nice chat. And I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day.
My nose is quite sweaty now.
Ready? Yeah.
Thanks, Rhonda.
And then we can stop our video.